Okay, I guess we'll get started here. Good evening. My name is Charles Sindel. I'm chairperson of the Webster Groves Plan Commission. We are a 9-member board of citizens appointed by the city council to review development proposals and make recommendations to the city council regarding future development of the city. In addition to the members of the Plan Commission participating via teleconference, we have a few other representatives of the city I would like to introduce. Councilmember Pam Bliss, City Attorney Peter Brunschweiger, Planning and Development Director Mara Perry, and Denise Bolesky, our recording secretary. I would like to welcome you all to tonight's monthly meeting of the commission and take this opportunity to explain how we operate as indicated in our agenda. We will begin with the regular session of the meeting when we will hear new applications for rezoning or subdivisions. We will hear a staff report and the applicant will explain the proposal. We will then ask for comments from the public. At that time, anyone with an interest in the proposal may indicate to city staff they have a question or would like to express their opinion by clicking on the raise hand feature on Zoom. To make sure that we accurately record your name, we ask that you identify your full name and address at the beginning of your comment. When you make your comments, we ask that you be as concise as possible and not repeat a point made by a previous speaker. We also ask that you limit your comments to 3 minutes. One person who's a spokesman for an organization may have 6 minutes to comment. After all citizens have spoken, the applicant will be asked to respond to any questions that have been raised during the hearing. When we have finished reviewing one proposal, we will move on to the next application. Comments concerning items not on the agenda should be made during the public comment section of the agenda near the beginning of the meeting. When we have completed the regular portion of the agenda, we will go into executive session. At that time, the commission will discuss the proposal and may decide to vote on the application or to postpone the decision. You are welcome to remain and listen to the discussion, but there'll be no additional opportunity for public comment at that time. Our recommendations are sent to the city council. In most cases, the city council will conduct a similar hearing and must enact an ordinance before the proposal is finally approved. If the Plan Commission takes a vote tonight, the city council will likely take up this issue at its first meeting next month. If you want information regarding our vote or the progress of the application, you may contact staff at City Hall. And now I'm going to read the first item on the agenda, which is approval of minutes. Is there any comments regarding the minutes of the January 10th, 2022 meeting? I don't hear anybody. I don't see any raised hands. Is there a motion to approve the minutes?
Move to approve.
Second.
Been moved and approved and moved and seconded to approve the minutes of the January 10th, 2022 meeting. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
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 Is there anyone opposed? Public comment, is there anybody here on Zoom from the public who wishes to make a comment on matters that are not on the agenda? See anybody? Mara, anybody there?
Sorry, not seeing anyone. And sorry, Steve Hunkins is emailing. He doesn't have his link to get on.
Who's that?
Steve,
Oh, okay.
hold on, I'm sending that to him. Sorry, without a second person.
That's all right. All right, take your time.
I'm gonna briefly unshare the screen so I can get into my email and quickly send him a link.
Okay.
And I'll get back to sharing the screen in just a second.
Mara, the link's on the city website too, if he wants to use that.
Yeah, no, I know
Yeah.
that. I was gonna send him that, but I can't send it from my phone very easily.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, I can't. I was trying to type it and it keeps auto correcting. So hold on just a second. All right, let me reply to his email with the link. Okay, it is sent and I'm going to go back to sharing the screen.
All right.
Okay.
All right, the next matter on the agenda is public hearing, 21 PC 11 Euclid Elms, an application by Robert Keeney on behalf of Onder Properties LLC to establish a planned environmental unit procedure within the A4 7,500 square foot residence district on an approximately 1.09 acre tract of land located at the following addresses: 15 Euclid Avenue, 23 Euclid Avenue, 131 Euclid Avenue, and 133 Euclid Avenue. The applicant has requested that this matter be postponed to the March meeting. That's the March 7th meeting. Is there a motion to postpone this matter to the March 7th meeting?
So
Motion
moved.
to approve postponing.
All right, I think
Second.
it's been moved and seconded to postpone the hearing on 21 PC 11 to the March 7th, 2022 meeting. All those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye.
Aye.
Anyone opposed? All right, next item on the agenda, 21 PC 09, City Code Text Amendments. Tree Preservation and Landscape Ordinance. Proposed amendments include creating a new Chapter 57 Tree Preservation and Landscape Requirements through the relocation and amendment of regulations in Chapter 10 Public Ways and Places, Sections 10.300 through 10.385. And Mara, I assume you're going to present?
I will be presenting. So a few of these first few slides are just repeats, just as a reminder that for the last couple of months, we've been discussing this Chapter 10, the sections in that relate particularly to right-of-way plantings and maintenance. We want to leave those in their own Chapter 10. And then everything that belongs really related to private development and on private property to move it to a new Chapter 57. So our focus was going to be working on that Chapter 57. And over the last couple of meetings, we had been getting ourselves down to a pretty good redlined document, which showed the sections that were coming out completely, showed some of the new amendments that we were proposing. And we had left it open because I wanted to both give the Plan Commission additional time to review the document after we talked about it, as well as I had sent the additional comments to Public Works and Parks. Both of them had given me early comments going on 6-7 years ago, as we had proposed to make these changes quite a while ago, and it had been put on a back burner. So I did get additional comments from the Parks Department. Public Works said it looked good to go. There was at least one particular comment for some clarification from the last meeting from the Plan Commission. And so we tried to address that item too. So I'm just going to briefly go through. I left a little bit off to the side, just a reminder of some of the things that we were doing, but I'm going to mainly focus on the additional amendments that we've made since the last version that you saw. So under the, we were removing the right-of-way sections, we were clarifying all the titles, we were renumbering everything to Chapter 57. When we got into the definition section, we were cleaning up the definitions, and last month I went through every page of the definitions. Our focus, really the only additional changes that were made to the definitions, is that the Parks Department said that they actually have the position that takes care of some of these items is actually the park superintendent and not the park manager. So you'll see that I went through the entire document and changed everywhere it said park manager to park superintendent. So I'm not going to go through all of those in every single place that it was changed in the code. And to make it easier, I did a auto find and replace, but it also tried to replace it in sections where we'd already struck that whole paragraph out. So hopefully you'll see those all in blue in the code section that was attached to the packet. The next thing that we were looking at, and this is came from the Parks Department, they were concerned about a couple different things. One was related to the amount of money put down for replacement caliper inches, the not to exceed amount. So many times we found when someone's doing a full tear down and they're impacting a lot of trees on the site, to make it easier, they end up just saying, well, I'm just going to take everything down. And at this point, it's kind of left at, well, if you've taken down enough that you would have had to have actually replaced $4,000 worth of caliper inches, you're just capped at the 1,200. So we wanted to do two things. One, it was at 800, sorry, and we want to raise it to 1200, which would be just a couple more inches of to get capped out at. But we also wanted to add that if you are going to be removing more than 15 caliper inches or need to replace more than 15 caliper inches, which is a reminder, that's taking 30 caliper inches down because you only have to replace 50% of the caliper inches that are calculated. So if you're going to be required to replace more than 15, we would require that you need to do both add trees on as well as can use the amount, the replacement amount. Right now, a lot of people will not even bother to add any trees. They'll just go, well, I'm just going to pay that $800. That's enough. I'll pay my $800. That covers everything. And we found that there's just not an incentive to try to protect some of the trees. So by providing that kind of combination that they do still have to plant some trees, as well as can then get to the capped out not to exceed amount, that might be a little bit more incentive to try to save some of the trees that are on the site. Any questions about that additional little code section at the end? I'll keep going, but if there's more questions as we continue, let me know. Under the tree preservation section, one of the things that that was brought up at the last meeting was it wasn't really clear when it would be required if a property owner had owned the property for less than 12 months. We hadn't really defined it. We just said, oh, if you've owned the property for less than 12 months. And it wasn't the intention that anyone who's unowned property for less than 12 months had to do a tree preservation plan. It was simply if they were applying for a building permit to do construction, whether it's interior or exterior to the structure. The reason why we do both interior and exterior is when they're doing interior to the structure and have lived there for less than 12 months, they're putting usually a big dumpster on the site. They're piling up materials on the site. And many times the easiest place for them to pile it is under, neighboring trees or neighbors against neighbors' property. So we do want to clarify that so that if someone has owned the property for less than 12 months, they're applying for that building permit, building a garage, doing a major interior renovation, they would potentially need to provide a tree preservation permit. In providing that tree preservation,
that's directed at me, Mara.
I'm sorry, what?
I can't help but feel that's directed at me.
Oh, yeah, but you got a waiver, didn't you?
Working.
Yeah. So the other option is that you can get a waiver. So even though it might say that the property, if it's less than 12 months and you're doing that work, there are still some options. And Yvonne goes out to a lot of properties and looks. And if the driveway is buffered, if someone is voluntarily putting up some fencing just to block trees to the neighbors, or if there's a fence up, all of those can give the opportunity that they would not have to provide the tree preservation plan. So there's still a waiver option in there. But that was a clarification that wasn't really well documented in the code. So we've been making sure to identify that. Okay, so now I'm gonna go. So now I'm gonna go to the next. Tree landscape design standards. So the landscape design standards are set up with a couple different key elements. And one of the things that we found is that we had in the code canopy trees should be a minimum caliper of 3 inches. The hard part with a 3-inch caliper minimum is it makes it very difficult for someone to get a wider variety of canopy trees. Some of the canopy trees are hard to find in a 3-inch caliper. So we decided to move it down to a 2-inch caliper to give a little bit more broad ability to get canopy trees. This again was from the Parks Department. In the previous section, I talked about how we were talking about updating the $800 amount for the single family escrow in order to make it go up to $1,200. $1,200 added just a little bit more It's still not as much as we require for a commercial property, which is up to $5,000. It would still give a little bit more incentive to try to protect the trees that are on the site. So there were 2 other sections that we had to change that so that it matched in all of the sections. And that's really it. I'm happy to pull up last month's PowerPoint if anyone wanted to go back over any of the other sections, because I had it all in the old PowerPoint, but I didn't think it was worth bringing every single code section back over. Yes, Jeff. Sorry, you're muted.
Okay. So I assume the intent is not to, we get these taken care of and not have to rewrite these for 20, 30 years. $1,200 may not be as much in 20 or 30 years. Is there any mechanism for tying that to inflation, or, would it just change that amount by code amendment in the future when it's deemed appropriate?
So typically we do, so whenever we have fees, our fees are actually in various sections of the code. So recently we just did a amendment to our fees. And we do those just as a standard code amendment. I would think it's interesting, the fees that we have for the rest of the building code, we did not have to bring that to the plan commission because it wasn't in a section that was plan commission related. It would maybe be nice to put it in a different section so it didn't have to go all the way through plan commission. It could go straight to council. It would still need to go to city council for amendments. I could probably chat a little bit with our city attorney about whether it makes sense to move it to another section. But I think if we went to move it to another section, we would have to do another amendment at this point in time. Yeah, I wish it was a little easier. It's always smart to think ahead, but it sometimes takes up to, the last set of code amendments that we made to update fees was almost 10 years.
I have a question about the calipers, the changing of the calipers from 2 to 3. Do we have a list of preferred trees? And then, so the preferred trees, those are the ones that you can't get in the 3-inch caliper, or?
It's not that, it just sort of depends on how things have grown in a particular type of year is what I understand. So we do have a list of preferred street trees. So when you do a street tree or a canopy tree, there's canopy trees that are good for parking lots. So there's a list if you're going to do it as a street tree. When it comes to commercial properties that might be doing it just on their land, they don't have to pull from that street tree list. They can pull from other lists. So giving that variation of going down to a 2-inch caliper, it just means that times of year, it's difficult to find anything, in a 3-inch caliper, and you might have a little bit more variety to choose from if you include going down to the 2.
And this covers residential though too, right?
It does cover residential too, but primarily because that information, that section that it was in, is actually in the landscape section. So it more relates to the landscape plan. But it does talk about minimum caliper for specified for tree plantings. Now we do not, when someone on a residential property is coming in and has to put replacement trees in, the only one that we specify what they have to show us, the tree type, is if it's the street tree. If they're doing caliper replacement just on their property somewhere in their rear yard, they do not have to provide a specific type with us at this point in time. It's a lot more flexible. So it just gives them a little bit more ability to provide something that they can take care of and hopefully maintain that doesn't die.
Okay, I guess that makes sense, telling people what they can and can't put on their property. But we do have a certain, there's a wish list, like you said, preferred trees. I mean, we'd like everyone to put in an oak tree or so, or, a legacy oak or something like that. But those, they takes forever to grow and all this kind of stuff. But we do have a preferred list that people can look at.
We have a street tree list because since those trees are going to be maintained by the city in the future, there's a street tree list. But if it is the ones on their own property, they have more flexibility.
And can they look do we have a list for that, or they just put whatever they want?
They can pretty much put whatever they want, but I do know, I'm gonna stop the PowerPoint share for a second and see if I can pull up for you. There's actually in our document center, we have a whole series of things in our tree folder. So I'm gonna share this. Sorry, I have too many things open. I'm gonna share this with all of you.
So there's kind of like a landscape guideline that
There's a couple different things in here. So there's,
go to.
yeah, there's a packet about ash trees. There's a residential tree preservation plan requirements and commercial. There's a tree list that was updated in 2020. So again, this is sort of a tree list, which has, I think, quite a few that talks about whether they're native or not. In addition, there is a tree manual and a tree planting guide. So all of those are in here.
Okay. And that's in this chapter, or where is that?
These are actually documents that the city provides.
Okay.
And then the chapter just references that, you do have to take street trees from the street tree list. But we try to give as much flexibility. We try to encourage natives. And any landscape plan for commercial properties does need to go to through review by our Parks Department and our Planning Department.
Okay. Okay. Thanks.
Mm-hmm.
Mara, I didn't really have a comment, maybe just a question. If I'm reading this, the tree protection plan and the landscape plan are two different things. Are they often submitted as two different things? Because as it filed maybe two different kind of projects, or do they have to make two submittals?
So sometimes on smaller commercial sites, they do it as an overlaid plan with both of them together. They provide what they're preserving, and then they show the new landscaping going in. On larger projects like a Webster University, when they did their interdisciplinary sciences building, they did an entire preservation plan, and then they provided a separate landscape plan. When it comes to residential property, because on residential property, they are not required to provide a landscape plan, they'll usually just provide us with their tree preservation plan. And then they might provide us a list of the trees that they've planted if they are trying to not have to pay into the tree fund. And they will also usually get permission or provide a letter that shows what street tree they're providing if they're required to provide a street tree. So sometimes they are overlapping together. We don't get a lot of really big commercial projects. So when we do get them, they are usually two separate documents.
Maura, item 3 there, I'm not sure if that's a and/or. I don't have an opinion, but was unclear to me, but maybe I'm just not familiar with the intent. And are of a?
I will confirm with Parks. I want to say it's and are of a 5-gallon pot size. But let me confirm with her. I'll check and confirm the details of that one and make sure that we're writing it correctly. It was moved from another section, and hopefully it's just that we didn't type. It might have been I didn't type it in right. Any other comments or questions?
Mara, do you want to have us vote on this tonight?
if you have no other questions, you can. If you feel like you want to hold it over again, I'm fine with you holding it over again. But I hadn't received any other comments or thoughts.
Under executive session, we've got votes none, so that we would be voting on this if we close the public hearing.
It should be on there as a vote. Did I not put it on the agenda properly?
I'm just looking at what I printed out from the website. It says votes none.
Oh,
So
that
it's
might be
no
on.
big, no big deal. We'll just, unless somebody has any more questions, well, I think we should probably take a vote on whether to close the public hearing on this.
I just have one question. And this is actually going back to next month. And it's in the definition section where we use the, like the industry, that calculation where we use the industry. It was kind of like a definition inside of a definition.
Right.
I was wondering whether we should just pull that out, or that second definition out. You know which one I'm talking about.
Yeah, I know which one you're talking about. And that one was a tough one because I did try to pull all the definitions out. Sorry, I'm gonna pull that PDF up. I did try to pull that all the definite, like, so it wasn't, nothing was a definition within a definition. And the hard part was, I don't think we wanted to put it as two separate define it and then put it inside another definition as two separate. So that was kind of tough. Sorry, let me pull that up.
You gave it, you even gave an example of how to use the calculation inside another definition.
Yeah.
Which I thought was kind of confusing, but, or could be confusing.
Sorry, I'm pulling it up now so that we can all look at it together. I'm going to share the screen and then I'm going to try to scroll to it. Okay, so adjust diameter with the condition factor.
The condition factor, yeah.
Yeah, so the hard part is, I mean, we could move, I think we had, see, condition factor used to be its own definition.
Mm-hmm.
But the crazy part was the only place condition factor was used was in the other definition. So a lot of times we tried not to, we didn't want any definitions in the code that weren't anywhere in the code, that didn't define anything anywhere in the code other than in a definition. So we kind of buried a definition inside a definition.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, we could pull it back out again, but then it's a definition that's only defining something within another definition.
Yeah. Mm.
Well, why don't you uncap it?
Oh, you mean just take the...
Just say the condition factor is a numerical without caps.
Or the condition factor as defined as a numerical expression of a tree's condition, blah, 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 blah.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, we could do that.
If you uncap it, it won't look like a definition.
Yeah. Yes.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, we could do that.
Yeah, that way you can define it inside that makes more sense than making it its own definition. But if you're qualifying it as this, defined as this, then you don't have to separate it out.
Yeah, I would agree.
Okay, great. That bugged me.
I'm gonna go
for some reason.
I'm gonna look really quick down at the one that Jeff had talked about, just to see if I had simply retyped it wrong from when I was moving it from another section. So that was under, sorry, they were all in different places and we tried to move things around. So the one he was looking at, okay, so it was all shrubs planted. Let me see if I can find where I pulled the all shrubs planted. Native plant materials. Landscape materials. Tree planting, shrub planting. All shrubs planted must be 24 inches minimum height or spread. Yeah, it was written exactly the same way. I can try to figure out what it's supposed to be. And make
Should that be ARE and R of?
Well, I thought so. It might be, but I'd be afraid to make that change without confirming with Yvonne that that was the intent.
It seems like there's two ors.
It says or of a, it says
And
or
If it was ARE, it would make sense.
and are or of, yeah. So none of the different,
And
Yeah,
R of a
there's many
5-gallon pot size.
but it has and or.
There's too many
So-
ors.
Well, take the or out and put R in, ARE.
All shrubs must be of 24 inches minimum height or spread. Yeah, no, I really want to talk with her and make sure I'm correct on that.
And
'Cause-
or of
Okay.
a 5-gallon pot.
I mean, I think typically, sometimes you can get a 3-gallon that does have a 24-inch height and spread already. Like sometimes they have a smaller root ball. But then there's an option that you could go to a 5-gallon, which is a little more expensive, but it might not already be that tall or wide. So I just want to confirm that with her. But that one, I think you could approve it with us just getting that clarification if you wanted to approve that tonight.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm not sure any of us have a strong opinion,
Yeah.
whatever, defer to Parks.
Yeah, I mean, just as long as Parks is okay with that. I mean, it could be changed to council too.
Mhm.
All right. Anybody else have any questions or comments? Is there a motion to close the public hearing?
Moved.
Move to,
Second.
I'll second.
Been moved and seconded to close the public hearing on 21 PC 09. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
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 Is there anyone opposed? Next item on the agenda is plats and site plans. We have none.
Hey, Charlie, one quick question.
Oh, sure.
We do have one guest and we did not ask if that guest wanted to
Oh,
speak about
I'm
the tree
sorry. Let's go
landscape.
back.
So I'm just gonna say, if the one guest who's on and listening does want to speak, if you wanted to raise your hand. Oh, he does. Okay, so hold
All
on.
right.
I'm gonna,
Sorry about that.
you can go ahead and unmute yourself.
Thank you. My name's Evan Theising. I'm at 1058 Tuxedo Boulevard. I don't have a comment on what was presented other than just to say that I appreciate all the work that all of you do. I judge that this is a thankless position and I appreciate everything that you're doing. So thank you.
Thank you.
That's so
Thank you.
nice.
Okay, now we're back to plats and site plans. None. Is there a motion to adjourn the regular session and move into executive session?
Move to
Motion.
adjourn.
Second.
Been moved and seconded to adjourn the regular session, move into executive session. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
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 Is there anyone opposed? All right, executive session. This is 21 PC 09 City Code text amendments. Tree preservation and landscape ordinance. Proposed amendments include creating a new chapter 57 tree preservation and landscape requirements to the location and amendment of regulations in chapter 10 public ways and places, sections 10.300 through 10.385. We are in executive session. Does anybody have any comments before we vote on this?
I just had a question kind of to ask Mara. First of all, thanks. This is a huge undertaking. You are correct to create an entirely different section and to, remove stuff and put it in a big session. Hopefully it achieves the purpose of making it easier for residents and business, contractors for using reading the ordinance. to that end, has anyone outside of us reviewed staff, has anybody outside looked at some of these regulations? Did they make sense to them, I guess?
Sure. So no one specifically on the outside has. It was mainly internal. I know for Public Works and Parks, it had been years since they had last seen the document and their comments. So I feel like in a way they were looking at it with fresh eyes. I know Yvonne probably would have preferred we went even farther into delving into more flexible ways for plans to be calculated and how they could have different units of calculation versus the numbers of trees and shrubs and things. And we talked about that, but I think that would have taken months and months of us testing it out to see if it worked. And that was going to be a little more difficult. But I would hope that we would get some more people to look at it. One nice thing is, because of the timing of when it's leaving you all, if you do vote tonight, and when we need to advertise for council, we still would probably be another 6 weeks. I don't think we could even get it for the first March meeting. It might be the second. And if so, if it goes in the second March meeting, we can reach out to a few of the tree preservation specialists we've been working with and some of the others to give them a chance to kind of glance over it and see if they see any major issues.
Yeah, I mean, I think that would be helpful for council to know in case they wanted to make those changes, because I don't believe you want to see this again for a long time. So, and if it's been this long changing it, let's try and get it as good as we can get it at this period of time moving forward.
Agree.
Anybody else? Is there a motion to approve 21 PC 09 and moving on to city council?
I'll make a motion to approve pending, I guess, the and/or clarification, however we best word that.
And I would say also
Second.
with the do you also want to add that adjusted diameter clarification definition?
The condition factor?
Yes, yeah.
Agree.
So there's a second, right, Jeff?
Yeah, I will second.
It's been moved and seconded to approve 21 PC 09 City Code Text Amendments, Tree Preservation and Landscape Ordinance, with a couple of changes that we've been mentioned in the motion. All those in favor of approving this signify by saying aye.
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 Is there anyone opposed? I'm going to go ahead and ask you to express how you voted. Jeff, how did you vote?
Aye.
Michael?
Aye.
Maddie?
Aye.
Steve?
Aye.
Tony?
Yes.
Christopher?
Oh, no,
Oh,
Christopher.
Christopher's not here. Scott?
Yes.
Annie?
Yes.
And chair voted aye. So that concludes 21 PC 09, and that concludes the executive session. So we'll go on to the next item, which is other business.
I don't think I have any other business at this point. I really am hoping that we will have the hearing on the PEU next month. I'm still working with them on the questions that they have on their submittal. Today was the deadline for anything else for next month, and I haven't seen anything. Charlie and I, before the meeting started, were talking a little bit about what my next code amendment might be. I know we had briefly talked, maybe it was before 2020 or maybe in the middle of 2020, about looking at the overall sort of impervious surface calculations for lots. That's one item that we had talked about making some amendments. We'd also talked about making some amendments for things like electric vehicle charging stations. And I feel like there was one other that we kind of postponed when we were focusing on some other code amendments. I will try maybe at the next meeting to bring a list of 2 or 3 things that we might want to get started back up on. and see where we can go from there.
Okay, I wanted to let everybody know that I am term limited and I'm coming off the Plan Commission. I'm going to stay on until a replacement is found for me. And so you folks might be thinking about who you want to have as your chair. And I just want to say that it's been a pleasure working with all of you, and especially with the city staff who I've worked with for years, and I'll miss y'all.
Are you term limiting yourself, Charlie? Because we could use you.
Well,
We still want you.
I've term limited myself.
Oh, okay.
You have to go beg if you want to go past 2 terms, and I'm not going to do that.
Oh, well, you'll be missed.
Thank you. Yeah, thank you for your leadership.
It's been a
Yeah,
pleasure.
thanks, Charlie.
Thank you.
You can still call in.
Yeah, I may be here next time. They may never find a replacement. It's Steinman's job.
So Charlie, at the last council meeting, they did have 1 person interview for Plan Commission. We've had at least 1 more contact us potentially about serving on Plan Commission. So there's a chance. I know we have 1. And they did want to look at the overall number because I think there were a couple other terms that were up. So I'm sure we'll hear something maybe before next month, maybe the month after.
I may still be here next month. Who knows?
And
Okay.
for all of you, we might, there's a chance, but I'm not going to say yes or no whether it's going to actually happen because it's a month away. We are going to try starting next week, going back to partial in-person meetings. That doesn't necessarily mean that in March we'll be back in person still, but I will let you know as soon as I know.
If you
Thanks,
go
Mark.
back, will you keep the Zoom option?
We're going to keep the Zoom option. We've got all the technology now, and it makes it a little easier if the public does want to attend from home.
Yeah, I think there are some people too might be, immunocompromised and stuff. So
Agree.
Mara,
different viewpoints on.
yeah, I was informed that I was term limited up as well, but I indicated I would be willing to continue to serve, so I'm not sure if I'm going to have to re-interview or not. That said, I will likely miss I hope to miss next meeting because I hope to be out of the country.
Yay.
Have fun.
So
Be safe, yeah.
I'm going to stay away until I replace Charlie.
Don't be surprised if you're elected chair. while you're gone.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
That's why he leaves, right? So we can elect him chair.
Hey, Mara, how is the search for a replacement for Danny going?
Yeah.
I'm working on
Never
it.
mind.
I'm working on
Okay.
it. No, I'm working. It's actually, I have some good options, but I'm still
Great.
in the process, early in the process. The snow and I was sick last week. So the combination of snow and being sick kind of put me behind. But hopefully we'll be getting someone soon.
Good.
Any movement on union loafers or union bagels?
They're just going
Yeah.
really, really, really slow. Sorry.
Yeah, they are.
Must be the same
And what
contractor
about-
working on the house across the street. I mean,
Yeah, that's right. I know the house.
yeah,
you're
yeah,
talking
Charlie, you know
about.
that. Yeah.
He's working on it now.
Yeah.
Mara, what about the Lona's Little Eats? Is that done?
Not coming.
Not coming. Okay. Okay.
Nope, completely off.
Okay. Blue. And then the urgent care, when is that set to open?
Oh, shoot. I should know this. I think whatever my answer was in the Webster Kirkwood Times maybe 2 weeks ago. I
Okay.
can't remember off the top of my head.
But soon. It looks soonish.
I want to say this summer.
Oh, not that soon. Okay.
I
got a lot to
don't,
know.
I felt like it was longer than, I felt like it was more like June.
Oh, okay.
Even though they might have a lot of the exterior finish, there's
Yes.
still interior
Inside.
to be worked on.
Okay.
And the lot still needs to be done. And there's a few other things, and I'm sure the weather's going to make something. I feel like it was in the newspaper 2 weeks ago.
Okay. Okay.
I just can't remember off the top of my head.
Totally.
They were asking about that. They were also asking about timing for the lawyer's office in the coffee shop next to the bank in Old Webster.
Okay,
I think that date was in there too. I can't.
okay,
I might be getting them both mixed up with one another, but they're both, you know, in the next few months, spring to early summer.
okay. Regions Bank, that bank?
Yeah, next to the Regions, the new building that's under
Yeah.
construction.
Okay,
Yeah.
it's gonna be a coffee shop?
The front half is a coffee shop and the back half is an attorney's office.
Okay.
And
Okay.
then there's a new bank going in where Bank of America was. They're under construction now inside.
Okay.
I'm trying to think if there's anything else that I can remember right now.
Oh, anything about Fuzzy Tacos? Are they closed or what's going on?
No, they're it's changing ownership.
Oh, okay. That's huge news. Okay, okay.
Yeah, it's changing
Okay.
ownership.
Okay, so it's not closed. Okay.
Mm.
And then do we know if anything's gonna come to that old Family Dollar?
Nothing right now.
Nothing right now. Okay. Okay. Because that's a big spot too.
Yeah.
Okay. Okay.
Amy's Cake Pop Shop expanded.
Yes.
She's got a second space.
Next door, right?
Mhm.
Okay.
Yeah, I
Anything else?
was trying to remember if I could remember anything else off the top of my head. I'm usually better about these, but
Zushi's been open for a little bit.
she's been open for a while.
Yeah. It was, I went like the second day. It was good. It was good.
Are there any, I mean, I'm right in the middle of Project Clear Hell down here at my end of Lockwood. Are there any big public works projects coming this summer besides, you know, that project?
Well, so both Missouri American Water, which of course their Elm project. I have a map that shows all the projects that they're going to continue to be doing street after street all the way through, I think, 2026. So there's going to be a bunch of those continuing. I know the big ones. I mean, they were working on Glendale, they were working on Big Bend, they were working on Elm. So all of those were kind of more of the major thoroughfares, but they will be on a bunch of other streets coming up in the next couple of years. I don't know of any other public works ones. Yeah, I don't know of any other public works ones. Oh, Green Goose changed hands.
Okay.
They were going to close and they were able to resell. So they changed hands. And then, sorry, I pulled up the spreadsheet so I could see if there's anything else I was forgetting. Oh, next to Veta Sports in one of the industrial buildings is a place that's called, they've a couple different names and I'm going to forget which is which, but there's the warehouse and then there's Ironwood Wellness. So they're doing renovations inside, but they've created field space for field hockey teams to practice indoors.
Oh, cool.
And then they're going to have some, I think, personal training and a couple other tenants in the back. So I know that opened up.
The commercial center there on Kirkham.
Yeah.
They're doing renovations in there?
Yeah, they're doing a full facelift renovation, mainly the exterior. So I don't think I have any new business licenses for inside, but it's mainly a new partnership ownership redoing the exterior. Big Sky changed hands to a new owner.
Oh.
Webster Arts opened their new location. I think that's all of them. Oh, I'm sure a lot of people have seen, and I don't have any new news on it, that Acme Printing is for sale.
Okay, yes.
But I don't have anything new, any news on that one.
Anything else?
Okay, anything else? Motion to adjourn?
Thank you.
Motion to
So moved.
adjourn.
All right.
Moved.
See you at the pool, Charlie.
Okay.
Bye, Deb. Yeah.
I always see him at the pool.
Oh. All right, thanks, Mara.
Have a good
Hey,
week.
Steve. Hey, Steve, thanks for reaching out. I appreciate you noting that.
All right. See y'all.
Bye, thank you.
Let's go.
Bye-bye.
Bye.
Be safe, Jeff abroad.